Good morning. Welcome back to Catch Up with Chuck from the Rural Futures Institute at the University of Nebraska. I'm Chuck Schroeder. I'm the founding executive director of the Rural Futures Institute. You know, there's a prevailing myth around rural that the brightest and best young people, once they graduate from high school, want to find the best paved road and get out of town and never come back. We have the opportunity at the Rural Futures Institute to work with students who are myth busters and who are glaring and glowing exceptions to that silly myth. Well, joining me today are two guys from rural Albion, Nebraska. Don't adjust your screen. Yes, they are twins. We can tell them apart, but we're delighted to have them with us today. And they are not only fans of the community that they come from, but they are making plans to go back and build that community into something even greater. They have a big idea for a hopeful future for Albion and that whole region. So, Joesph and Matthew Brugger, Albion natives, are high energy, very high achieving students here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. They're involved in all kinds of activities, but in particular, our acquaintance comes through the Engler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship program that we've talked about on this show before. So, Joe and Matt, welcome to Catch Up with Chuck.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
That was a heck of an introduction.
Yeah,
making me feel really good. Now maybe pull that down.
Challenge,
Yeah,
don't you?
exactly.
Well, listen, you two caught the attention of those of us at the Rural Futures Institute when you walked onto campus. You clearly came here with a plan. You're on a mission, and you're happy to tell anybody that'll listen to you about your belief in your hometown's future and your willingness to invest in it. So, as we start here this morning, I want you to talk a little bit about your upbringing and your relationship with your community. What drove you two guys to feel so passionately about your hometown?
Well, I'd say honestly, small towns that come from agriculture. So we grew up farm cattle, raised cattle, corn and soybeans, alfalfa. Kind of had that whole experience growing up, and it really, focused us from the time that we were, I can't remember not being in the tractor with Dad. The time I was little to being able to, go out and check cattle, and then that just carried on throughout, our entire education. When we started high school or started school, you have people that are like-minded, different from you, and you really get to share things with each other that I feel like in a small town that you don't really get that opportunity in larger communities, and so like I said, agriculture has been kind of obviously the focal point of what we do, and who made us who we are right now.
Yeah,
so.
And I would say that instilled a work ethic, and so when we started out in high school, we definitely were not the most talented individuals, but we were able to work very hard at whatever we were involved in, and I think that got some community support behind just us as individuals, and so we were able to have a little bit of success, but that really drove us to say, they kind of took ownership on us and stuff like that. They were able to put things back into us that we want to be able to give back now that we've been able to take the skills that we've gained from our community and growing up in that environment, and we want to return that back to our community.
Listen, I want you to talk just a little bit more about your parents, and you've talked about your mother as an educator,
Right.
and how that's driven the way you think about your role in the world. So say a word or two about that, and then we'll go on to some other things, but I think it's an important story.
So our parents were like, again, it's funny because I feel like we have a very good dynamic of both sides of the spectrum in our family. Our dad's a down-to-earth guy. He's funny. He wakes up in the morning and he is just, lights up every morning. Like you'll. And then my mom is more of this. She is the tactics, strategic person who puts everything in place. And we grew up through that entire experience. And our mom was a stay-at-home mom and a farm wife for a long time. Until we got into high school, she decided that she wanted to go back to school and do what her passion was, which is honestly, like you said, in educating, more specifically in mental health. And she went back to school. She went to Doane. We graduated at the exact same time, which was really cool. but she has played a huge role in, I feel like, our mindsets, as people, as being able to, really come down and live in the moment and what we're doing and love what we're doing, and has, asked us the hard questions, makes us ask the hard questions, makes us question things that that are uncomfortable for most people to answer. But once you really start thinking about it, both of our parents have been big motivators in helping us, be innovative and think differently than other people, and asking, why are things done this way, and why. I think that's the biggest thing for us, anyways.
Even asking, like, why do we do things a certain way? And that goes back to the mindfulness piece that I think our mom really tried to instill in us. I mean, even I remember at a young age, our mom asking us to, when we washed our hands, she'd say, just feel how that feels. Feel the soap between your hands. Feel the water running over your hands. And when she did that, that was teaching us subconsciously how to just be in that moment, not look in the future, not look in the past, but just be in that moment. And that enabled us to be more successful, I think, in the things that we do, because we enjoyed where we were, not being so futuristic or so living in the past, that we were able just to be in the moment. And I think
it allowed us to take ownership in our community in a better way, because we saw something for what it was at the time, what it could be, what it was, but at that time we're like, we see the people for who they are and what they have given us at that time. I don't think we would have been half as successful as we were in high school and what we were doing if it wasn't for the people at that time that had given us the encouragement and empowered us to do the things that we were really passionate about.
That's just so important.
Yeah.
So listen, okay, you guys come from rural Nebraska. You've driven up and down rural highways. You've gone through lots of communities. You know that two communities 20 miles apart can have a very different feel about their vitality, their promise for the future. You have seen something in Albion that says this is a place we want to be. We believe it does have promise. Talk a little bit about what you think are the unique assets of Albion that can be built upon.
Yeah, I think that what makes Albion unique is, well, one, I mean, if you want to talk just infrastructure-wise, there's a great school system, very progressive-minded. They take a lot of things that Joe and I believe in. They take it seriously. We were taken seriously in any idea that we expressed, even as high schoolers, and that makes it a place that makes it feel like, okay, my ideas matter here. So why would I not want to go back? Why would I want to leave the place that they I mean, I can travel everywhere I want, but this is home. And so that was a big portion of it. There's a great healthcare system, great place for elderly care. It's a safe community. So, I mean, you could talk structurally wise, but I think what really made us want to invest in Albion is the attitude of the people. I mean, I think it goes back to if you want to be successful as a rural community, you have to be able to kind of pass on the torch in a way to the younger generation. Believe in them, take a risk in them, because I don't want to go back to a place that doesn't believe in me. I don't want to go back into a place that doesn't feel that I can add value. And I think that goes back to our current education system is they were accepting and letting us choose kind of our path that they believe. They say, okay, you understand how you can, how to get to where you want to go. That's up to you. We'll give you the tools. And when they did that, that allowed us to say, okay, we have the opportunity to build our future how we want to, and that makes it not seem like we have to leave the community to be successful or to accomplish our goals.
Again, I think it's that whole empowering piece. We were never forced to go one way or the other, or it was never an expectation that we had to come back. It was always an empowering thing. The people in our lives has always made it easy for us to want to come back, because they never told us what we had to do. They showed us, they were acted as resources to show us that we could be successful in our small town rather than...
It's interesting. We had the opportunity to work with a group here at the university on developing a capstone. And while we were going through this and we were sorting out the details of how this capstone was going to work, we got into the point where we were trying to come up with ways to grade. And one of a couple of students they're awesome. Like, we love working with the people at this group is just great. And some of them suggested, maybe we should have, you need to do this interview and get this scholarly article and have these things in line. And I think that kind of struck a chord with Joe and I, because we both jumped up, and all of a sudden we're like, no, we can't do that. Because for us, We want to say, here's your opportunities, here's the things, here's our resources. Now you get to decide how to execute this project or this goal that you're trying to get to, and that allows, they have, even if it's not the right answer, their ability to think of to come up with the answer themselves is more empowering than it ever has been. And we had that ability, and that
Lifelong impact.
yes, exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And that's Engler. That's what I mean. Honestly, that's Engler. I mean, it puts us the tools in our toolbox to be able to control our own destiny. It doesn't push us into one category or another. It doesn't turn out commodity students. It makes you a unique individual, and that's what
Very different approach
Yeah.
to education.
Yeah, and that's Engler really represents our hometown, and that's what we loved about Engler, and that's what we love about our hometown.
Sure. Well, listen. Okay, you two guys look alike, but I happen to know that you really have different talents, different strengths, some different interests that you clearly love working together. Talk a little bit about your differences, if you will, and what you believe you bring to the table when you start talking about going back to Albion.
Yeah. Well, I think when we came, I guess when we came to the Engler Entrepreneurship program, we knew we wanted to work in rural communities, but we really didn't know what we were going to do. Throughout our time here, we started a business called Upstream. And Upstream, we started off with it focuses on our two different areas of influence. So my influence, where I'm working here at the university, is animal science. I'm really interested in that. And so through that, we were able to open up an account with the University of Nebraska Athletic Department and do a value-added product with our beef. We have a booth down at the farmers market. We supply beef to probably 100 different customers through the Lincoln, Omaha area. And that has been a very learning experience. It's a logistics and marketing business more than it is a beef business, but it's the way that I think that I can add value to what we're doing in Albion to kind of have a place there, I guess, that allow us to actually live there and work there and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, and my area is agronomy. It's kind of a full closed loop system where I'm really focused on the feed that we feed our cattle to produce quality beef, and I've really taken that into account when it comes to our customers. They want to know where their food is coming from. There's a passion for that. There's a demand for that, and so one of the great parts about our story is that we can tell the entire story of that because Matthew is really focused on the animal and I'm really focused on the feed that animal and the nutrition that animal gets. But on a bigger scale, even I feel like with economic development, when you talk about any sort of development of a rural community, I would say that you're more focused on economic development and business, supplying, or creating business and stimulating a good economy in a rural community. And my area is more focused on social development, so the education system,
Right.
How every aspect of that and how, because you talk about two parts of a rural community and you look at it, you have to have these businesses that are providing the people for their town. That people have to go to those businesses, for the town to be successful. But when it comes down to it, it's a mindset. It's this mindset that we kind of need to get over, and that doesn't start by just saying you're right, I'm wrong. It starts at a very young age when a kid is starting to progress, through these ideas. About sixth grade is when a kid really starts to decide, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? What I want, or at least that's when it was for me. And I started looking to the future and started thinking, okay, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to move away? Do I want to do all of these things, or do I want to stay here? Is this where my home is at? And those were very influential times where I feel like you need to be. There are things and things in our education systems that set us up for people to leave. And where kids want to leave. They feel like that's their only option to be successful. And so I feel like that is just as important as being able to create businesses in a rural community.
And with that, that's kind of where our motivation stems from creating business. Yes, we love selling beef. We love working with producers and consulting and stuff like that. That's a big part of what we do. But I think the goal behind that is to grow something that is the backbone for younger children and younger kids in schools to say, okay, you've been told you can't do it this way, but we're doing it this way. So you can do it this way. We want to be that backbone. And like I said, just to reflect what Joe says, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to build a really good rural community. You have to be able to say, you can do this and you can do it here, and empowering those kids and not laying out their education for them, but let them take ownership. Let them choose that, because once they do that, then they're able to feel like they have a home here. They don't have to leave their community to be successful. And so that's really what we want to do. Long-term goal is be that backbone and allow kids to have, give them permission to say, no, go for it. you can.
Well, here's one of the reasons I asked this question, because I watch you two guys and I've enjoyed the engagement with you. So often when we think of entrepreneurship, and you're in a very unique entrepreneurship program here at Nebraska, we always think about that as being business entrepreneurship, but the truth is there are business entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs that have to work together to make a great community that's prepared for the future. Well, listen, we're running out of time, but one of the things that we preach here at the Rural Futures Institute is that for a rural community to thrive, it has to have leadership that matters, number one, and number two, it has to have a hopeful vision backed by grit. You two, I believe, are classic examples of the kind of leadership that's preparing to go to rural communities and provide that difference-making impact. We're so proud of you. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
To any young viewers out there that are watching right now, or make sure that you know that you can make an impact where you're at right now. It doesn't matter how old you are. I've seen 6-year-olds that are making mailboxes and painting mailboxes for people, and that was their business because they cared about the people around them, they cared about their neighbors.
Sure.
You can make a difference, and you can do that any way that you see fit, and it can align with your goals in your life right now. So
I would say the older people in the community understand that you were a younger child once too, and that you don't know how much just a little bit of time and empowerment to a younger child, what that can do for them, and what they could turn into or what they can blossom into. And we've had people do that for us, and I think you have a lot more people wanting to come back to your community if you allow them to do that. So I guess that's it.
We think the world is going to be a better place tomorrow than today with leaders like these going back to rural communities. Well, listen, stay in touch with the Rural Futures Institute through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as our website. And know that we're going to be back in weeks to come talking to real people about real places that demonstrate thriving rural communities are a legitimate best choice for worthwhile living. Thanks for joining us.